There is a discipline in learning how to see clearly, not through the lens of emotion alone, but through reason, through steady observation, through a mind that does not rush to judgment or collapse under pressure. This discipline is not given. It is cultivated. And it begins with a simple question. What is within your control? Your thoughts, your actions, your responses, and what is not? Everything else. The past cannot be changed. The opinions of others cannot be commanded. The events that unfold around you do not ask for your approval. Yet much of your suffering comes from trying to control what was never yours to hold. You resist what has already happened. You replay moments. You question outcomes. You imagine different paths that could have been taken. But this effort brings no peace. It only deepens the wound. A scar forms when healing begins. But if you keep reopening the injury with regret and resistance, it cannot settle. It cannot teach you. It cannot strengthen you. So you must learn to release, not because what happened was acceptable, not because it did not hurt, but because holding on to it binds you to a moment that has already passed. You are no longer there. You are here. And here is where your power lives. Consider the storms you have faced. Some were brief. Others lingered. Some came from the outside. Others rose within your own mind. In each case, you were tested. Not to see if you could avoid pain, but to see if you could endure it without losing yourself entirely. This is the heart of Stoic resilience. Not the denial of feeling, but the refusal to be ruled by it. You feel fear, but you do not surrender to it. You feel anger, but you do not become it. You feel sorrow, but you do not let it define you. There is a space between what happens and how you respond. A narrow space, often overlooked. But in that space lies your freedom. If you rush, you lose it. If you react without thought, you abandon it. But if you pause, even briefly, you reclaim control. This pause is your practice. It is the moment you choose discipline over impulse, clarity over confusion, strength over collapse. It is not easy. There will be times when your emotions rise faster than your reason, when your instincts pull you toward reaction, when silence feels unbearable. But this is where growth happens, not in comfort, but in restraint, not in ease, but in effort. You do not build resilience by avoiding difficulty. You build it by facing difficulty without surrendering your inner order. Every scar you carry is tied to such a moment when you could have broken completely, but did not. A moment when the world pressed hard, and you resisted just enough to remain intact. That resistance matters, even if it felt small, even if it went unnoticed by others. You held on, and that is the foundation of all strength. So do not rush to erase your scars. Study them. They are reminders of your capacity to endure, of your ability to withstand what once seemed unbearable. They are not interruptions in your story. They are the very substance of it. And as you continue forward, you will face new trials. This is certain. Life does not stop testing you because you have already endured. But now, you do not meet these trials as someone untested. You meet them as someone who has survived. Someone who understands that pain is temporary, but character is lasting. Someone who knows that while the world may be unpredictable, your response does not have to be. And that is where your strength becomes something greater than survival. It becomes mastery. There is a quiet strength in suffering that few learn to recognize. Most seek to escape it, to silence it, to outrun it. But suffering, when understood, becomes a teacher. Not a gentle one, not a comforting one, but a truthful one. It reveals where you are fragile, where you are attached, where you are unprepared. And though this revelation may sting, it is also a gift. Because what is revealed can be strengthened. What is seen clearly can be shaped with intention. Every scar you carry is the result of such a lesson. Perhaps one you did not ask for, perhaps one you resisted. But a lesson nonetheless, and within each lesson is a choice. Will you become hardened in bitterness, or will you become refined in discipline? There is a difference. Bitterness closes the mind. It turns pain into identity. It repeats the past in endless cycles. Discipline, however, transforms pain into clarity. It sharpens your awareness. It strengthens your control. You cannot prevent suffering, but you can decide what it makes of you. This is not a passive process. It requires effort, reflection, honesty. You must look at your experiences without distortion, without exaggeration, without self-pity. Not to judge yourself harshly, but to understand yourself fully. Ask yourself, what did this teach me? Where did I lose control? Where did I remain steady? What can I do differently next time? These questions are not meant to burden you. They are meant to guide you, because each moment of suffering contains the seed of future strength. If you choose to cultivate it, there is also a power in silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of composure. When chaos surrounds you, silence becomes your refuge. When others react impulsively, silence becomes your advantage. It gives you time to think, time to observe, time to respond with intention rather than instinct. This is not weakness, it is control. And control is the foundation of inner peace. You do not need to prove your strength to the world through noise or display. Your strength is demonstrated in how you carry yourself when no one is watching, in how you endure without complaint, in how you persist without recognition, in how you remain steady when everything around you is uncertain. These are the marks of true resilience, and they are not built in moments of ease, they are forged in difficulty. Each scar is a mark of this forging process, a sign that you have been shaped by life and have not shattered. You may still feel the memory of pain when you reflect on these scars. That is natural. But do not confuse memory with weakness. The fact that you remember means you have learned. The fact that you feel means you are still alive. What matters is that you are no longer controlled by those moments. They do not dictate your present unless you allow them to. So stand firmly in what you have become. Not flawless, not untouched, but tested. And there is a quiet confidence in being tested, because you no longer fear hardship in the same way. You understand it. You recognize its patterns. You know that while it may challenge you, it does not have the final word. You do, through your thoughts, through your choices, through your discipline. This is how suffering becomes strength, not by disappearing, but by being transformed. And every scar you carry is proof that this transformation is already happening within you. There is a quiet truth you carry, whether you acknowledge it or not. It is written not in words, but in marks, not in perfection, but in endurance. Every scar you bear tells a story, not of weakness, but of survival. Look at your life, not as a sequence of failures or wounds, but as a record of persistence. You have been struck, tested, and pressed by forces both seen and unseen. Yet here you are, breathing, thinking, listening, still standing. That is not nothing. There is a tendency to hide your scars, to turn away from them, to wish they were never there. But this is a misunderstanding of their meaning. A scar is not an admission of defeat. It is evidence that something tried to break you and did not succeed. You endured. And endurance is the quiet strength the Stoic mind holds above all else. You were not promised a life without hardship. No one was. The world does not bend to your wishes, nor does it soften its edges to spare your comfort. Storms arrive without asking. Loss appears without warning. Pain visits without invitation. But you remain, and that is where your power begins. You cannot choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you meet it. This is the foundation of inner freedom, not the absence of hardship, but the mastery of your response to it. Think of the times you felt overwhelmed, the moments when the weight seemed too much, the nights when your thoughts would not rest, the days when your strength felt distant. You passed through them, not easily, not perfectly, but you did not stay there. This is what your scars represent. Movement through pain, not avoidance of it, not denial of it, but passage through it. There is dignity in that. There is power in that. You may not always feel strong. You may question yourself. You may doubt your direction, your worth, your capacity to continue. But your scars do not lie. They remind you that you have already endured what you once believed you could not. And so, you must begin to see them differently. Not as something to conceal, but as something to understand. Not as marks of damage, but as symbols of resilience. Because the truth is simple, though not always easy to accept. You are still here. And that alone carries weight. That alone holds meaning. That alone is proof of a strength within you that no hardship has yet overcome. Let this be your starting point. Not perfection, not control over everything, but recognition. Recognition that you have endured. Recognition that you continue. Recognition that every scar you carry is not a burden, but a quiet declaration. You survived.